Hi Karen, it is good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. It must be years now. To what do I owe this pleasure?
Hi Mr. Daniels. As a U.S. federal employment lawyer, I was hoping you could give me some information on the EEOC guidelines for pre-screening employees. I am particularly interested in what the EEOC has to say about questions regarding arrests and convictions. I want to be sure that I am doing my job to the legal letter of the law.
No problem. Any particular reason for your needing this information? I mean, has something happened at your company that gives you room for concern?
Well, yes. Bob, who is my boss, and I were hoping we could offset some of the damage caused by the recession by taking advantage of some of the U.S. federal hiring incentives.
Well, I will share with you as much as I know. Okay, let's begin. First, there is no federal law that clearly prohibits an employer from asking about arrest and conviction records. However, using such records as an absolute measure to prevent an individual from being hired could limit the employment opportunities of some protected groups.
And thus cannot be used in this way. I get it.
Right, since an arrest alone does not necessarily mean that an applicant has committed a crime, the employer should not assume that the applicant committed the offense. Instead, the employer should allow him or her the opportunity to explain the circumstances of the arrest, and should make a reasonable effort to determine whether the explanation is reliable. Even if the employer believes that the applicant did engage in the conduct for which he or she was arrested, that information should prevent him or her from employment. Only to the extent that it is evident that the applicant cannot be trusted to perform the duties of the position when considering the nature of the job, the nature and seriousness of the offense, and the length of time since it occurred. This is also true for a conviction.
Wow. This is good information. Tell me, please. How and where does state law come into play?
Several state laws limit the use of arrest and conviction records by prospective employers. These range from laws and rules prohibiting the employer from asking the applicant any questions about arrest records to those restricting the use of conviction records. In some states, while there is no restriction placed on the employer, there are protections provided to the applicant with regard to what information they are required to report. The Fair Credit Reporting Act, FCRA, imposes a number of requirements on employers who wish to investigate applicants for employment through the use of Consumer Credit Report. The employer has to advise the applicant in writing that a background check will be conducted, and obtain the applicant's written authorization to obtain the record. Certain other disclosures are also required upon the employee's request, and prior to taking any adverse action based on the reports obtained. Well, that's it in a nutshell, as far as U.S. federal employment law is concerned. Did I answer all of your questions about arrest and conviction records?
Yes, Mr. Daniels. Yes, you did. You even answered my unspoken questions. I knew that you were the right person to come to for this information.
No problem, Karen. You know that I am always glad to help. Ex-offender re-entry is a very hot topic now, and one that the public and private sector will be dealing with for years.
I am very grateful for the time you've taken with me today. At least now I have a better idea of what one can and cannot do legally. Let me ask you one more question. How much detail can we ask when inquiring about the specifics of those convicted of crimes? I guess what I'm really asking is, what are the boundary lines?
By law, an ex-offender has to tell you if they have been convicted of a crime. However, they are not required to expose the specifics